Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special lunchtime speaker today, someone very near and dear to my heart, one of my great heroes. Please, I ask you all to give our speaker your full attention for a critically important topic and issue. I hope you all have enjoyed the conference so far. Everybody having fun? Okay. But in between having fun, we have to take a moment and give some thought to the issues that are critical to our community, our legal community, as well as our Latino community. And you know, we're not just here to network. We're not just here to meet people and have fun. We're here to empower each other, to take stands, take courageous leadership positions, and change our profession for the better. And that's what today's speaker is going to speak about. So I'm going to call up to make the first introductions our wonderful National Finance Director, Julia Lopez.
Thank you, Carlos. And muy buenas tardes a todos. My name is Julia Lopez. I am the National Finance Director of the HMBA and VIA Fund and a partner at Reed Smith. As Carlos said, we are here today for a very important reason. It is my privilege and honor to introduce today a mentor, a friend, an HBA New Jersey past president who served in 2001 to 2002, an HNBA longtime member, a role model for Latinas across the country, an embodiment of the American dream, a true trailblazer for Latinas in New Jersey across the country, the Honorable Esther Salas. Judge Salas became the first Latina magistrate judge Now, clearly, everyone knows who she is, but I'll be brief. Judge Salas became the first magistrate judge, Latina magistrate judge in the District of New Jersey in 2006. And 5 years later, she became the first Latina district court judge in the District of New Jersey in 2011. I had the honor of clerking for her for 2 years, one of the pivotal moments of my career to this day. She is here today with a call to action. On July 19th, 2020, her life changed when her son Daniel Androl was tragically killed and her husband Mark was shot multiple times and critically injured. The senseless murder of her only son was racially motivated by a litigant who appeared before her and hated her for nothing other than she was a Latina. Since this tragic day, the judge has been on a mission to honor her son's life and legacy and to help protect her colleagues on the bench. In our home state of New Jersey, Daniel's Law was enacted in November 2020. And this protects the home addresses and phone numbers of judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement officers from public disclosure. The HMBA has joined her efforts to urge Congress to pass a similar bill to protect federal judges across the country. We need your help to pass the Daniel Androl Judicial Security and Privacy Act, because no judge should ever fear for their lives or for the safety of their families while upholding our Constitution and ensuring that all people have equal justice under the law. Judge, in your darkest hour, you taught us strength and resilience, like you always have. We made a promise to you, and we are going to stick to it, and we will not rest until this law is passed. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Esther Salas.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon. Everybody eat. Before I begin my formal remarks, I start my day, each and every day, with a practice of gratitude. I thank God every single day when I open my eyes, and I thank my Daniel. In the spirit of my daily practice, I want to take this opportunity to thank the HNBA President, Carlos Bolead, President-elect Mariana Bravo, Executive Director Alba Cruz Hacker, VP of External Affairs Cristina Sarchio, the entire advocacy team at the Becker Group, my HBA New Jersey family, and all of you for getting and helping us get to this point in our quest to enact the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act. So, ladies and gentlemen, the protection of the federal judiciary and ultimately of our democracy must be of paramount importance to everyone seated here today and beyond. I don't say this lightly when I say this. The federal judiciary is under attack. Since 1979, we have watched in horror as federal judges have lost their lives or the lives of their loved ones, all because we were doing our jobs. I want to take a moment to remind us of their tragedies. We start with Judge John H. Wood, Jr. Judge Wood was assassinated by a sniper in the driveway of his San Antonio home, Texas home, on May 29, 1979. I read that he was standing at the door of his automobile when the sniper, a convicted hitman, callously took the judge's life. Judge Richard J. Duranko was killed on May 19, 1988, by the father of a disgruntled litigant. The judge was in his garden on the side of his house in Pelham, New York, when the killer walked up to him holding a gun. As the judge tried to run to the backyard, the shooter just kept shooting the judge. The judge managed to run into his house, but the assailant followed him. The judge's wife, his daughter's son, saw as this man killed their loved one and then killed himself right in front of them all. On December 16, 1989, Judge Robert Smith Vance, it was December time, folks. Judge Robert Smith Vance opened a small brown parcel in the kitchen of his suburban home in Mountain Brook, Alabama. Unbeknownst to Judge Vance, the package contained a mail bomb, which instantly killed him and severely injured his wife, Helen. An investigation revealed that the killer was angry at the Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit, which refused to expunge his prior conviction. The irony of all that was that Judge Vance wasn't even a member on the panel that had heard the case. In the early morning hours of February 28, 2005, an angry litigant, upset with Judge Lefkow's ruling in his case, snuck into her Chicago home with the plan to assassinate her. In a suicide left behind, we know that the killer waited for hours in a utility room for her. But tragically, her husband found him. He killed her husband. And then as her elderly mom called down for her son-in-law, he killed her too. The judge returned home that evening to find her loved ones' lifeless bodies on the basement floor. It is said that upon reading the killer's suicide note, Judge Lefkow's worst fear was confirmed. Her job cost her the lives of her husband and mother. And on July 19, 2020, my only child, Daniel, was murdered in the foyer of our home by a self-proclaimed anti-feminist lawyer who happened to also be a racist. I'm not quite sure what he hated more about me, The fact that I was a woman, the fact that I was Hispanic, or the fact that I was a judge that happened to be both. No matter the senseless reason, he decided to take the life of my innocent boy. Now, I know you're all eating, and I want to ask and beg for your indulgence one moment while we do an exercise. If you all would be still. Close your eyes, please. And right now, I want you to think about a place in your home that brings you great comfort. Think about a task that you enjoy doing, maybe gardening or cooking and sipping your favorite wine. Or how about curled up in a nice comfy chair, reading your favorite book? Now I ask you to put into perspective the heinous attack on the judges that I've just mentioned. Please open your eyes. Unthinkable, right? Your home, your sanctuary. The facts and circumstances surrounding these attacks are unimaginable. These haunting facts sound like they belong in some horror movie, not playing out in real life. I can honestly say that before July 19, 2020, I would have never imagined the events that took place at my home, my sanctuary. Although much has been reported about what happened right before the shooting, I want to spend some time talking about what occurred days before my only child was killed. Based on 2 FBI debriefings, Mark and I learned that on July 4th, 2020, the killer boarded a train in the northeast quarter, headed towards his ultimate destination of San Bernardino, California. We also learned that on July 11th, 2020, just 2 days before Daniel's actual birthday, Daniel's murderer posed as a delivery driver. He walked up to the front door of a California lawyer he was pretty mad at, rang the doorbell, and insisted that this lawyer come and receive the package. When the lawyer came to the door, Daniel's eventual killer shot the lawyer multiple times, and he even went into the foyer just to make sure the job was complete. Immediately thereafter, Daniel's killer left the scene and made his way back to the East Coast. On July 16, 2020, Daniel's killer checked into a local hotel, less than a mile from our home in North Brunswick. We know through cell phone records that the killer was on my block Friday, July 17, and he watched as Daniel's friends started to arrive for his birthday celebration. The next day, Saturday, July 18th, I made breakfast for my son and his friends. And I wanted to give him a little privacy. So I decided to take our 2 dogs down the block to a grassy area. And as I walked past this car that just seemed misplaced, I turned my head, the driver turned his head, and we locked eyes for a second. I eventually found out that that would be the man who killed my child, who would ultimately kill my child. Later that morning, as I packed Daniel's car with beach chairs and a cooler and an umbrella, this man watched my every move. And finally, on Sunday, July 19, at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, he calmly walked up to my doorbell, rang it, and Daniel ran up those stairs and opened the door and met his fate with a single bullet to his heart. This gentleman tried to kill my husband of 27 years, Mark. We learned some pretty troubling, if that's not troubling enough, some pretty troubling details. We learned that the morning of the killing, he went downstairs to the hotel and paid for 3 more nights in advance. And when I was sitting there, I asked the FBI agent, why would he do that? And the agent looked at me, looked in my eyes, and said very calmly, ma'am, he was going to kill you, no matter how long it would take. I remember asking the agents, but if I was his target, why didn't he come in? He must have at that point heard me screaming because I was in the basement. And the special agent in charge, without skipping a beat, said, well, ma'am, he was met by superior forces, your husband and your son. Little is known about the brief exchange between Daniel and the killer, but what we do know is that Daniel wasn't going to let this man step a foot in our foyer. Daniel fell back with his hands in the cross position. Mark remembers that. And we believe that what he did was he blocked that killer from walking into our door. And what we know from the FBI is after they did an entire sweep of my house, not one footprint of that man was in my foyer. That's my Daniel. As for Mark, he just kept taking the bullets, one right after the other, right after the other. Mark was shot 3 times. The bullets penetrated 5 different areas of his body. It's a miracle Mark is alive. In the days and weeks and months following my son's murder, we learned much about the killer. We learned of the dossier that contained much of my personal information, my routes to work, Daniel's schools, his baseball schedule, Mark's work address. He even had our church where we attend Mass weekly. In addition to my dossier, there was a list of other potential victims. And although I've never bothered to read that manifesto of his, I, like Judge Lefkow, I have to come face to face with the reality that my job cost me the life of my only child. As Mark and I continue to struggle with his life-threatening injuries, we learned much about the details of the killer's plan. A storage locker was found belonging to the killer, and inside that storage locker, there was another gun and a manila folder. And inside that folder was information on Justice Sonia Sotomayor. And just as he had done with me, he was beginning to compile information on the justice. He knew her favorite restaurant, where she worked out, and had copies of visitor guides for the Supreme Court. All the information in my dossier and in Justice Sotomayor's folder, all that information is classified by the FBI as open source information. As I stand here today, all this open source information remains readily available on the internet for the world to see. Have we learned nothing, ladies and gentlemen? Have we learned nothing from these tragedies? As the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act languishes in Congress, judicial officers remain vulnerable and exposed to the threats that come in all shapes and sizes. United States Marshals are being asked to do more with less in terms of manpower and financial resources. Realistically, it's just a matter of time before another judge or his or her family is killed, assassinated. And why? We're assassinated for doing our jobs. Saying that out loud bothers me on so many levels. There are no words to describe these last 2+ years of my life. Mark and I, our fate is sealed. We're cooked, we're done. We are forever scarred by our unfathomable loss. However, there are things that we can do to protect the judiciary and ultimately our democracy. The Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act, it's a step in the right direction. It's a narrowly tailored bill that addresses this compelling government interest. As I speak to this audience and I look around this room, I know each of you can appreciate the dire consequences that will follow if we do not do something to protect our judiciary. Historically, violence against the judiciary has been closely tied to the toppling of democracies all throughout this world. Autocrats deliberately set out to discredit and delegitimize independent courts that we need to send that ultimately are upholding democracy and ensuring the rule of law. Sound familiar? As we saw in Nazi Germany, where Jewish judges were removed ahead of the entire reshaping of the German judicial system. Same playbook was utilized in Turkey when huge portions of the judiciary were replaced with loyalists. In Venezuela, where a judge was jailed because he ruled outside the leader's desired outcome. And finally, in Hungary, where the entire judicial system was reshaped to suit that leader's agenda. In our country, our Constitution hinges on an independent judiciary. We must be able to do our jobs without fear of reprisal, retribution, or death. Judges stand on the front line protecting democracy and the rule of law. The integrity of the judicial system mandates that we stand united, to protect our country's democracy. We cannot sit back and allow these anti-democratic efforts to go unchallenged. We must send a strong and decisive message to all those wishing to harm the judiciary that in America, we do not stand for this. We in the judiciary know that the time is now to urge Congress to pass the Daniel Anderl Judicial Security and Privacy Act, S-230, strike that, S-2340, and H.R. 4436. Please write it down. Remember it, S-2340, H.R. 4436. This is a matter of life or death. Life or death, not only in the physical sense, but the life of our country as we know it is in serious jeopardy. I want to end my remarks with this. Last year, my Daniel was attending Catholic University of America right here in DC, and before he was killed. And last April, they dedicated a plaque to him that really sits outside the law school. And the plaque reads as follows: "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life." John 15:13. May we always remember the judges who laid down their lives. May we never forget our loved ones who offered their lives as an act of love. And may we work together to honor their legacies and to protect the country we love so much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
After Judge Salas' son was murdered, an experience that would flatten most people, Judge Salas saw it as a call to action and has made it her mission to protect the lives of the judiciary nationwide. It's incredible that she has been able to harness this strength inside her to to bring this call to action to us, to our community. And for that, we are going to present her with the President's Award for this incredible call to action that she's given us here today. But I saw a lot of people giving a standing ovation 3-4 times. I saw a lot of people with tears in their eyes. That is not enough. We have, at this conference, our law students over by the membership pavilion. We have the resources to make it easy for you to contact your congresspeople, your senators. We have written the emails for you. All you have to do is go over there, give them your information, tell them where you live, and they will spoon feed it to you. I want to see, when we're done here today, I want to see the membership pavilion packed with people putting your name down, because standing ovations are one thing, but this is a call to action, and it is on you to take that action. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for Judge Salas.
And I'll do one better. I'm going to be standing by the table. So please, I'll be looking for you.
All right. Well, I told you this was going to be intense, right? This conference. We're not done. We're about to bring up an incredible panel of past presidents, people who have dedicated their lives to the HMBA. We're going to talk about the past of the HMBA, and we're going to talk about the path forward. So with that, I'm going to call up our, for at least another 24 hours, President-elect Mariana Bravo.